Alright, continuing Chapter 2, Federal Railroad Administration. Federal Railroad Administration Office of Railroad Administration, Motive Power Equipment Compliance. I'm not sure what page I'm on. We're on page 41. The following sources of the codes. There are only source codes to be used in the motor power equipment. When the applying some appropriate source code of the code on the inspection, the inspector should remember the FRA must at all times focus on the quality of inspection efforts of many years. Although the estimate indicated the ability to actively monitor the two lengths of the 1% or 0.2% of the railroad operation. Currently, data shows a similar relationship between the railroad and the operation of the FRA inspection capacity. Please note that according to Technical Bulletin G0703, selectable source codes have been reduced to RSIPC. The five codes that have been eliminated will generate an error message of inspection reports if they are used. These codes are Federal Assistant Investigation, G Other, K Inspection from the train, W Focused Inspection, and Y Inbound Extended Haul Trains. In place of the code of the FGW, please use the source code C, D, and specification source code D that requires the file, the number of the box filled in. Previously, using the source code W Focused, the inspection of the four audits will now need with the source D along with the unique file number. The file number should be descriptive means with something to you. The file number box the 18 characters work with. The most recent revision of the source code took place from the February 29, 2008. It should now be the error-free. The source company code focused inspection used for the February 29, 2008. You would get an error message if the report recommended a violation. Then simply change the source D to the added the filler number and the file number, and then the source save the report. If the report contains a recommendation violation, the report is locked, and please call the ActionNet 703-204-00908X248 and ask for assistance with getting in the change without having detailed violation report. Alright, your motor and power equipment source codes. A regular inspection, the periodic inspection activity conducted with the Federal, State, Railroad, and Safety Inspection in accordance with the established procedures determined the railroad, shipper, consignee, contractor, manufacturer, facility, compliance with the Federal, State, and rules, regulations, orders, and standards of the jurisdiction of the FRA. B, the compliant investigation and inspection initiated with the purpose of performing the compliant investigation. The complaint file and number must be assigned and indicated on the inspection report with the code used. C, the accident investigation and inspection resulting from the accident incident investigation. Accident file number must be assigned with the indicated with the inspection of the report when the code is issued. D, the special inspections, investigation, inspections initiated with the specific reason for the on purpose that did not otherwise identify the file number that must be assigned with the indicated with the inspection of the report when the code is used. E, waiver investigations, inspection resulting from the investigation requesting a temporary relief of the federal regulations. A waiver investigation file number must be assigned and indicated with the inspection report when code is if the ECP brake equipment of the motor power equipment, the inspector must complete the separate inspection reporting the source code G along with the related inspection activities associated with the ECP braking equipment, e.g. Part 215, 231, and 232, etc. The source code G must also be inspection activities of Part 218, 223, and 229, etc. The ECP braking train equipment. The H, nuclear route shipment, inspection of the nuclear route shipments must be specified in safety compliance with the oversight of the program or SCOP plans. The reinspection inspection activity carried out with examining and monitoring the further developing previously conducted inspectors must be used with good judgment when deciding the appropriate interval of reinspection, taking into consideration the factors such as inherent seriousness and non-compliance with the railroad general level of the current compliance revealed with the original inspection as a whole. Signal and track control inspectors, track inspectors must also be governed and disciplined. Specified guidelines, file number of the field must be contained the inspector's ID, previous inspection report, file number, the inspection of the manufacturer's facilities inspection activities for the purpose of conducting the sample of the car, the sample locomotive inspection manufacturer facilities in accordance with the established procedures to ensure the capability equipment is material in accordance with the applicable federal, state statutes and regulation requirements. See, outbound extended haul trains and activity inspection activity conducted with the extended haul of the designated outbound inspection prior point of the federal, state, and railroad safety inspection in accordance with the established procedures to determine the railroad contractor compliance with the federal regulations as prescribed in Title 49, 232, 230, A2 through A5. This code shall also be used in inspection activities of the location where the car is added en route to the extended haul train. All right, activity codes. The activity codes codes to be used in motor power and equipment can be used in the multiple discipline code. A table of definition shown at the end of this section. When applying the appropriate activity code on the inspection, the inspector should remember the quality and the inspection information regarding the inspection captured by the Paramount inspection process. The information obtained by the FRA's inspector used to support the rulemaking waiver discussion, deployment of inspection and trend analysis, research development projects as accident incident analysis, overall condition over our railroad nation in order to ensure the data used to comply with the statistics for any of the analysis work precise, consistent, and inspector needs to adhere to the following guidelines when reporting the results of the inspection. When conducting inspection for the compliance with the following parts, the inspector must be required to inspect the entire locomotive train in order to count the activity as the unit and the unit count of the inspection report. Part 215, freight cars 2424, reflectorization, 229 locomotives, 230 steam locomotives, 231 safety appliances, 232 power brakes, and 238 passenger cars. However, there will be times when one of the side of the car, the locomotive train, can be inspired to constitute the partial inspection, while the inspection is not normally inspection protected. Because the inspector used to inspect the entire car, the locomotive, of the train, inspector must describe the partial inspection was performed in the line of the item described field narrative. The letter P must be interpreted. Letter P must be entered in the class box on the line item. When letter P is placed on the class box, every activity code used in the report will be captured partially in inspection. Therefore, the inspector performs the entire inspection of the locomotives on the train, but not only in the inspection on the one side of the train. 2 inspection reports need to be made. 1 report for the activity received the complete inspection, 1 report for all the activities, and 1 received partial inspection. 2 inspection reports should be generated with the activity codes of Part 218, police signal protection, 221 rear markers, and Part 223 glazing as used in conjunction with the partial inspections. Our multidisciplinary code table 17A discipline H&M general requirement. The purpose of the inspection is to determine the compliance with the statute 174.3, 174.5, 174.9, 174.14, 174.16, 170.50. Record 1 unit of the inspection each of the car and the hazardous materials. 17 174B, H, and O, general operations. The purpose of the inspection, reviewing the training documentation for each of the railroad containing the hazardous material, including any of the changes of the placement of the car. The inspection should include determining compliance with the basic hazardous material, shipping the paper to description as required in 174 statute 174.26. Record with 1 unit of each of the train consisting of inspecting 1 unit for each of the inspection of the basic shipping paper to description of each of the containing hazardous materials. Note the inspector must use the active code of the TPHL to record the inspection associated with the train placement requirements. Note 2, the inspector must use the code instead of the code 172C for inspecting shipping papers specific in particular in the train. 209 A and all, ALL or all. Recommend remedial action. The purpose of the inspection to provide with the railroad is not complied with the requirement to provide with the remedial action noted with the previous inspection report. Record 1 unit in the remedial action and not in compliance with the C general rules for the guidance. 215D, the disciplines of HOST, the freight car mechanical inspection. The purpose of the inspection is for any other inspector other than the motor power and equipment inspector to determine the compliance with statute 215 and quarters, including the appendix D, and the inspection includes the FRA inspector. For the FRA inspector, observe the railroad employees performing the inspection of the motor power and equipment should refrain from the activity code 215. Record 1 of the unit of each of the freight car inspected for the observed inspector compliance with the statute 215 for the articulated cars counted at each of the platform unit. Note that HM and OP inspector should activate the code for the HM hazard math for all HM for all parts of 215, properly the sensible maintenance weight of the equipment except for the part 215.305B. Alright, your activity code 217E with the disciplines of all emergency order. The purpose of the inspection is to determine in the compliance with the current emergency order the record each of the units submitted with the directed unique and instruction issued by the FRA headquarters regarding each specific emergency. Inspectors must thoroughly explain the inspection report narrative. Activity Code 217.0, the disciplines are all other all other operations observations for the purpose of the inspection of observing the railroad employees of any craft that perform the duties regarding the railroad operating rules and railroad safety rules, which include the related railroad operating rules, railroad safety rules, railroad bulletins, and written railroad may not otherwise conferred in the federal regulation of compliance with the record of the non-FRA defective under the Activity Code record, or one unit in the entire yard equivalent to the faculty monitored, one subunit for each of the crew member, yard master, contractor, track employee, mechanical employee, signal point maintainer, each set, etc. Inspector continually observe with a significant amount of time to determine the compliance with the non-compliance. Note that unlike compliance with the federal regulation, is the FRA policy that provided with the information recorded by the Activity Code regarding the non-compliance with the railroad operation rules and railroad safety rules without identifying the non-compliant employee by the name of the federal inspection report. See the general manual for the further explanation. Example 1. The FRA track inspector observed 20-person section game working on the approximately 45 minutes. When the inspector observed the track employee sitting on the rail, the FRA inspector intervenes with the addressing of the employee with the non-compliance with the railroad safety rules with the discussed non-compliance with the employee supervisor. The inspection reports will include the recorded with one occurrence, the non-FRA defective with the track employee failure to comply with one of the specific railroad safety rules prohibit the employees from sitting on the rail. The inspector will record the inspection for one of the 20 subunits. Example 2, the FRA motor power and equipment inspector observed the 4-person working on the railroad car proper blueprint signal protection for approximately 10 minutes. For the inspection, observed one of the works performed the task while wearing the recorded protective equipment. The FRA inspector intervenes with addressing the employees in non-compliance with the railroad safety rules, discussing the employee supervisor inspection of railroad, recording the non-FRA defective on a car shop, empty employee failure to comply with the specific railroad safety rules, prohibiting the performer in the task with the proper protective equipment. The inspector will record the inspection of one unit and 4 subunits. Activity Code 218C disciplines OS and T camp car protection. The purpose of the inspection is to determine the compliance with the camp car protection. Record one of each of the track inspector requires the camp car protection. 218 Activity Code disciplines M&O, the blue signal protection of the main or other main tracks. The purpose of the inspection is to determine the protection provided with the railroad employee is required when the blue signal protection in accordance with the statute 218.25, 218.27, 218.23. 30. Record one unit each of the track that requires the blue signal protection. The track with requiring the blue signal protection has more than one train cut of the truck. Cut cars requiring the train protection and record one unit of the entire track. Record inspection compliance with the blue signal regulations. Remotely controlled switch to record one of the unit associated with recording the key equipment's location. One submitted with each of the track associated with the records. Note 1. Except for the subtracks, both ends of the track must be inspected with compliance with the blue signal regulations. 2. There is a drop of the FRA observation code. Inspector may use the line lieu of writing the comment where there are not any exemptions notice. All right, Activity Code 218. All. That disciplines all. Part A, 218, Subpart F. The purpose of the inspection is to determine the railroad compliance with Part 218, Subpart F, to include the requirement of the railroad complying with the railroad operating rules, indicating that in the regulation of each of the day, the partial day spent in the reviewing the relevant railroad rules, each of the yard equivalent facility monitored record one subunit for each of the crew member, yard master, contractor, track employee, mechanical sub-employee, signal maintainer, etc. Inspector continually observe the sufficient amount of the time to determine the compliance with the non-compliant. Note the FRA policy inspector provided the information regarding the instance recorded under the Activity Code and non-compliance federal regulation. It will include identifying the non-compliant individual name in the inspection report. See the general manual of further inspection. Example, the FRA, the track inspector observed the 12% section gang with approximately 45 minutes of inspection. Observed the track employee for the switch equipment. At the file of the switch, the FRA inspector intervenes with addressing the employee non-compliance of statute 218 subpart F to discuss the non-compliance with the employee supervisor. The inspection reports will include the recording of the non-compliance of the track employees of the failure to comply with Part 218 subpart F, the name of the employee, and the non-compliance. The inspector will record the inspection of one of the units in 12 units. 2. Example 2, the FRA motor power and equipment inspects the 6-person switching of the rail cars in the car shop with approximately 10 minutes. The inspector observed one of the workers failed to properly protect the shoving movement. The FRA inspector intervenes with addressing the employee, the non-compliance of subpart statute 218 subpart F, discussing the non-compliance of the employee supervisor. The inspector report includes the record the non-compliance with the car shop, the employee failure to comply with the subpart A. Part 218 subpart F, the name of the employee with the compliance, but the inspector will record inspection as one unit and 6 subunits. Alright, example 3. Inspector reviews the railroad to determine the compliance with the railroad requirements sought regarding the railroad equipment in the file of the operating of the switch, and the inspection of the reports will include the record of one unit. Inspection will also reference the precise railroad and lack of the inspection report narratives. Activity Code 218S disciplines M&O, the blue signal locomotive protection locomotive in the car shop. The purpose of the inspection is to determine the compliance regulation requiring blue signal protection on locomotive service the track area, car shop with the repair track or in other track designated repair on the expedited track, or the record one of the unit inspection. And if statute 21829 alternate method protection applied in the car shop with the repair of the track of the area, locomotive service the tracking area, the one is recorded with the entire area regardless of the number of the tracks area, the number of the cars, the locomotive is on the track. Note, with except for the subtract both ends of the track and each entrance of the area must be inspected in compliance with regulation. Work with on the under between the equipment inspection, testing, repair, servicing before recording the unit of the activity. Note that there's drop down of the FRA observation code the inspector may use in lieu of writing the comment with any of the exemptions noted. This is activity 221 MO. The rear end markers. The purpose of the inspection, monitoring compliance. Part 221. The activity code should be not used in the inspection end of the tray device. And part 232 must record one unit of each of the train locomotives, including the DPUs or the caboose inspector compliance. The inspection of each of the rear of the device of the rooms located in where the rear end of the marking device are stored, or the recharge of the maintaining was one unit. Each of the rear end marker the ID must be recorded in the line item and appropriate to observation. Individual marking devices not attached with the train or storage and not subject to any services not recorded in unit. Note there's a drop-down FRA observation code. Inspector may be in lieu of the writing of the comment where there are many expectations noted. Activity 227N, discipline IH, occupation 227N, occupational noise exposure. The purpose of the inspection to determine the compliance of Part 227 of the occupational noise exposure in the locomotive cab will be automatic metric testing records, employee noise exposure monitoring, plan monitoring records, cab noise monitoring, the recording, post and monitoring results, training plans, record interviews, persons regarding the noise exposure, record one of each of the day, partial of the day, and the inspection one submit of each of the Part 227 record review. The activity may be only clamped with accompanied by the industrial hygiene staff. Activity Code 228 discipline details OS. Hours of service record records inspection. The purpose of the inspection determine the hours of service record in compliance with Part 228. The record of one unit for the day. The partial of the inspection, one submit unit for each of the hours of service. Record reviewed. The activities codes include the examination of the hours of service logs, the hours of service reports, the hours of service documentation, interviews with the employees regarding hours of service, and any other hours of service record. Reviewing the activity. The activity code is not documented with the employee exceeding the hours of service. Note that the reports taking action to employ the exceeding the hours of service should not be recorded by the end. The activity please reference the proper activity associated code with the employee type of the works and discipline. Example: the activity code 228P 211 in how HSL 228C OS details. Instruction employees sleep in quarter. The purpose of the inspection to determine the compliance of Part 228, subpart C, the record unit of each of the day. Partial review relevant part regarding the Part 228, subpart C. Activity Code 229X and the details H and O. Locomotive inspection officer made for the purpose of the inspection for the operation, purpose of any other inspector other than the motor power inspector to determine the railroad compliance with the Part 229. Record the unit of the locomotive inspection may be included but not limited to locomotive daily inspection, passageway, tripping and cab, and sanitation, cab lighting, speed and indicator, and etc. Activity Code 232E. Disciplines M&O, end of the train. The purpose of the inspection of the end of the train device within compliance with the 232. The inspection must include verifying information from the calibration sticker or illegal that contains the date of the name of the person and location of the last calibration. The activity also includes comparing the quantitative values between the front and the rear and the ability of the rear unit and effect emergency application response emergency application initiated with the front unit, recording one unit of the end of the train inspection with the observed compliance. Note that the activity code will be used on certain defects at the head of the end of the train and the end of the head end of the device and associated with the end of the train device. 232O. Your disciplines are HOSC, the freight train brake test observation. The purpose of the inspection, any of the inspector other than the motor power inspection to determine the compliance of Part 232, not covered in Activity 232E and 232X, and includes the air brake test required in Part 232. Air brake testing inspection should include the narrative inspection of the report, the inspection observing the company, the railroad employees, contracting employee, the performing the air brake test, recording one each of the observation inspection and one subunit for each of the rail car involved. Activity Code 232 disciplines MO. Securement of the locomotive because of the purpose of the inspection determined of the railroad equipment in compliance with statute 232-103. Record the units and files. 1. Record the unit of the inspection unintended with the equipment consistent with a single locomotive. The locomotive consistent attached to the cars or not. Inspection included determined compliance with the requirements of the throttle position, status of the reverse lever, position of the generated field switch, the status for the independent braking position, isolation switch, handbrake, and the position automatic brake valve. 2. Record one of the unit inspection unintended and not attached with the locomotive that are required to secure under the regulation. The unit includes the inspection but for bottled air. Note that if a train is separated, avoiding the block and any type of the crossing, they should have each of the section and the equipment recorded as a separate unit. 2. Note 2. The inspection report reports the defect recorded recommended violation identified clearly state the number of the handbrakes found to be applied, number of the handbrakes required to be applied, current operating, running, and placing indicate the precise number of the handbrakes required to be applied. Note 3. The inspection includes the inspector reviewing the railroad rules in compliance with this part. Example, that if there was 30 unattended railway cars are found on the track at the required for the 7 handbrakes applied, that the inspection reveals that one of the handbrake is applied and recorded as a unit with occurrence of the failures have the handbrakes applied. The 238 host, HOST, the brake equipment inspection parts for the purpose of the inspection of any inspector other than the motor power inspector to determine the compliance of the part. 238 is not covered in activity 238-X and 238T. Record one of the unit in each inspection subunit at each of the passenger inspection. 238T disciplines M&O. The passenger train brake test observation. The purpose of the inspection, documentation, observation, brake test, and brake train, air brake test, excluding the towards the equipment, recording one of the unit for each of the brake tests required for the compliance with the statute 238 and the subunit for each of the railroad record associated with the Class 1 air brake test. Note that the drop down the FRA observation code and the inspector may include the written with the comment that there are no any of the expressions noted. 238-X, the discipline codes M&O. The personal equipment securement. The purpose of the inspection determined that the passenger commuted with the equipment that proposed is properly secured with the exceeding the Taurus equipment, recording one of the unit of each of the train when there are not locomotives attached. Activity BWS is in discipline MO. BWS is discipline ST. Bridge worker safety. Any inspection concerning the part 214, subpart B, the bridge worker safety standards record one of each of the unit bridge gang work group or one of the subpart each of the member of the gang of the work. The comments are newly activated code. Alright, your activity FC within disciplines H&M, the inspector of the freight container, general handling and loading requirements. The purpose of the inspection includes the inspection of the rail cars marking with the placard, structural integrity securement with the card, or one of each of the exterior inspection with the container, one subunit with each of the comprehensive inspection with each of the packet. In addition, with the above the criteria with the comprehensive inspection includes the inspection of the interior with the container with the blocking, the bracing, loading, and the segregation requirements. The activity of the code may be only used when assessing the compliance with the statute 174, 174.55, 174.61 to 174.81, and 177.834. Note the BMP codes of the record and intermodal tank inspections. Activity code NOIR, all disciplines. Noise test records. The purpose of the inspection is documented review of the noise test section for the locomotive noise test recording. Record each of the unit and the locomotive noise testing, the monitor, and all noise testing record records associated with locomotive testing. Comments a new activity code. Example: the short line railroad 3 records of the file documented locomotive head test performed the locomotive SP1234 record 1 unit examination of all 3 records. Example 2: a short line railroad 3 records of file documentation locomotive harm tested performed on locomotive the SP1234, 2 records on the SP2345, record 2 units of the inspection noise testing records for the 2 locomotives. Example 3: inspector monitored the 3 testing sessions of the SP4567 and the reviews of the 3 noise testing records of the same locomotive. The recording unit of the locomotive testing record is involved. Note that the activity code should only be used when the inspectors who have trained with the inspecting locomotive have trained records. 2. The activity code should also not be used in Part 227 occupational noise exposure inspections. Activity code 227.9 when performing noise testing. Activity NOIS. That was NOIR. NOIS, all. Disciplines all. Noise test. The purpose of the inspection is to perform the noise test in accordance with the federal regulations. The activity should only be used in inspection who have attended with the FRA and the course regarding the equipment used in the conduct of the inspection. Record one of the unit each of the day, partially day of the inspection. The activity code should not be used in Part 227 occupational noise exposure. Activity code 227N with reviewing the noise code records. Activity code NOIR. Activity code RADX, disciplines HOT, the radar speed monitoring. Comments revised to the 26th of the 26th of 2011. The purpose of the inspection monitoring is accurately validated with the speed-trained railroad equipment in compliance with the federal regulation, railroad operating rules, record one of each of the units paid, monitoring censoring one sub-unit for each of the locomotive train of the railroad equipment with the railroad monitoring non-compliance with the railroad operating rules should be recorded under the activity code 217.0. When entering the code, the inspector must indicate the initial number of the locomotive, the name of the locomotive consisting with the train number and the side field. With the field permits for the entire entry of the 15 characters, each train piece of the equipment monitored with the requirement of the new line item. Note: the FRA participation state employees may not be performed the radar monitoring session unless they receive the certificate qualification of the FRA employee who holds the current certificate and the standard radar trainer with the C Chapter 3 of the General Manual Rule, completing the discussion for the FRA policy. Activity code RRM, discipline T and S, the road maintenance of the machine with the high rail for the purpose of the inspection, documentation, observation, inspection. Statute 214, subpart D of the on-track railroad maintenance machine and high rail vehicles. Record one of each of the road maintenance machine, high rail vehicle inspected. Example: if the large scale of the unit is consisting of the 20 roadway machines, one high railway vehicle is operating with the track. One of the 5 of those machines are inspected with the record 5 units. Note that if a machine operates but fails to comply with the railroad not covered with the Part 214 federal regulation, inspectors must note the non-compliance recording. The use of the non-FRA defective under the Activity Code 217.0 provided in the guidance of the Activity Code. Alright, Activity Code, Rule, Discipline All, Rule Book. Review. The purpose of the inspection for the recommended inspector review the formal discussion of railroad manager regarding the railroad rules, determine the accuracy correlated with the currently FRA regulation, regarding one unit each day, partially day, spent reviewing the railroad rules for compliance with federal regulations, recording subunit with the CFR section involved. Only comments should be recorded with the activity code. Any defects should be recorded with the proper corresponding activity code. Note that the inspection regarding the review of the railroad rules and ensuring the compliance with the regarding 232.102 and Part 218 subpart F that should not be recorded with the activity of the code, and inspectors should have referenced the activity code 213X and 213O respectively for those railroad rules inspection. Example 1, inspection of the NEBR railroad book, railroad rules railroad regarding signal systems. Part 234 and 236 comply with the federal regulations recording 1 unit and 2 subunits. Example 2, the inspection will include a discussion of railroad managers regarding the NEBR railroad rulebook bulletins, determine the railroad's rules including but part of the Part 217 and Part 220 subpart C correlated with the FRA regulations recording 1 unit and 2 subunits. Activity code RWP, or Road Worker Protection. Discipline OS&T. Road Worker Protection. The purpose of the inspection to determine the compliance with Part 214 with the C. Road Worker Protection. Record one of the unit individual work group employees with the roadway work charge in a specific location, which includes the attending of the job of the briefing with a group of the road work program. Road work protection employees, and record each of the required to provide audible warning signals and separate each employee requiring the road work protection as a subunit. When performing multiple unit inspection, whether the same employee or the group of employees record only one unit of the determined compliance, 1 subunit for each of the employee with working per day. Example: when observing inspection larger protection of the record when supporting each of the different location where the employee with the group of the employees is monitored with the compliance of the E.g. the large project of the multiple teams work group, the various locations of the right of the way to record each of the group of the team work at each different location separate unit. Example 2, the yard use of the road work protection consisting of one of the employee in charge, 20 track employees together with a single location record, 1 unit for the total location, 20 subunits for the entire road work protection program. Alright, activity code TC, or tanker car. Discipline codes H&M. tanker car inspection. The purpose of the inspection includes the inspection marking black card structural integrity. The record one unit of the ground level inspection that did not include the top of the level inspection. Record one of the sub-unit comprehensive inspection of the tanker car. In addition, with the above inspection criteria, but the comprehensive includes the ground level inspection of both sides of the top level inspection as well. The activity code may be used only when assessing the compliance of statute 172.302, 177.20304, 172.502A11A, 172.516C2, N6, 173.31, 174.50, 179, 180. The TPLH disciplines H, M, and O. And train placement, placard, railway cars, transportation vehicles, freight container. The purpose of the activity to determine the compliance with the position training with the placard 170, statute 174.84 and 174.85. Record each unit with each train inspected. Alright, Chapter 3, I believe, is just one page, so we're going to read it. Chapter 3, Enforcement Actions. In general, the motor power inspector is not required to initiate the formal enforcement proceeding each time a non-compliant condition is discovered. The achievement of the compliance inspector has the choice of the following action exemption. They mean the documenting non-compliant with the condition proper to the form requiring only that the condition be corrected before using the equipment. The violation is used in conjunction with the requirements of an exemption of a monetary penalty violation that can be issued against the railroad. Special notice of the repairs used in conjunction with requirements issuing the violation equipment with non-compliant not in compliance with the Title 49 CFR 215, 229 through 32, 38 can be removed from the service until it is in compliance with C Title 49 CFR Part 216. Individual liability action can be taken against the individual in conjunction with the requirements exemption, with or without issuing of the violation. Special notice for the repairs and against the railroad. The topic is discussed extensively later in this manual. Determine when and where what enforcement action is necessary. Please read the general manual for both in Chapter 3, Inspection Civil Penalties Recommendation for the Memorandum of Improvement of Civil Penalties and Enforcement Memo and dated in June 18, 2009. General Technical Bulletins or other guidance documents for guidance. Chapter 4, Railroad Freight Car Safety Standards, Part 215.